Hey, so I've been reading the book called Fantasy Workshop, The Art Techniques of Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell. This is by far one of my favorite art technique books ever because these are two of my favorite artists ever, and I just love the way they make art. And I really wish they made more of these books, but as far as I know, they made two of them. One is this one, and there's another one, which both of them is worth reading. I'm not sure what the other one's called, but it's both by them. And this is actually a really good one also. So as you can see, this artwork is just phenomenal, and they're my favorite artists that are making art right now. And I'm just going to go through some of the basics that they're teaching, which hopefully will improve your art, or maybe it'll give you an insight about how they make their art. So like here we're going to just start this up a little bit, and the first thing they do before they even draw anything is preparation. And as you can see here, they're like basically gessoing the boards. Gesso is this white acrylic paint, and what you do is you put that on any kind of board or any kind of surface you're going to paint on, so the paint sticks to the gesso and the gesso sticks to the board, so that basically it doesn't peel off or anything like that. So we have that, and what they do is it's really simple. They use in this one that mentions that they use illustration board rather than like a canvas or anything like that, but I've seen them use both. Illustration board is really good. Illustration board is hard to get, and it's like a cardboard. It's like a very heavy cardboard. I would say, yeah, you could paint on illustration board, but it does bend, it warps a little bit. You have to be really careful with it. But let's stick to how they do it. And basically, what you do is, so that it doesn't warp and bend or anything, that you tape it to like a wooden board. And I'll just show you. See the tape? Basically, that's what you do. You tape it to the wooden board. So you tape the parameters of it, and then when you remove the tape, you get a nice white border, which is really cool. It makes everything look real professional. They also use sable brushes because they say that's the best brushes. Sable brushes are real expensive. I use just regular non-fur brushes. I use the synthetic brushes. So, but they use the sable brushes. So I think one of the most important thing that they talk about, one is that how to start with references. So if you're going to paint metal, you just need like some references of metal. If you're going to paint like an animal or some kind of a creature and you want it to look like, here's a picture of a monkey, so if you want to make a monkey looking thing, or if you want to do some kind of metal in the painting, here's a doorknob where it looks like this bronze metal, so you could be able to use that as reference. And for example, like a crystal could turn into a crystal mountain. So you have to be kind of creative with your references and start with whatever you have, and then you can exaggerate it and make it really something bigger. And for example, here's some other, this is an area where this is how they use to take photographs of their models. And yes, the models are like bodybuilder men and women basically that they use the photographs with. And here is like a whole bunch of weapons, like, you know, like fantasy weapons, swords, axes, stuff that like fantasy heroes would use in their fantasy environment. And here is there's like a for example, if you want a person on a horse, you can actually get a saddle, put it on an exercise bike or something like that, and then you can see how a person sitting on a horse will look. So if you want to do horsemen and stuff, for the photography, they basically use a white background, which is like a white paper background, and the sides are these like lights. Just use whatever. I mean, they use the certain kind of lights. I guess they have different lights for different photographies, but that's all about photography and stuff like that. What they do is, what I think the most significant thing they do is have underpaintings, which means before starting a painting and starting to paint the color of what you're looking at, just paint some underpainting. And you can do the underpainting in raw umber, raw sienna, burnt sienna, which are these like, you could pretty much use any color for an underpainting, but that's the color that you want to show through your overpainting colors. That's the color you want the painting to glow. So if you want everything to be like a cool like dark painting, you want to make a bluish underpainting. But if you want everything to look flesh-like, you might want to use these raw umber, burnt sienna. Raw umber, burnt sienna, it's like a brown, different browns and reds and yellows and like very, very like for example, here it is. Basically, they will take a photo. You got your model, you got your photograph, and then you just draw it in pencil, and then over it you start with these underpaintings, like make her hair orange, right? Make the little dragon like in sienna or like an off orange and stuff like that. So start with that, and of course you keep working on it until it's really, really finished and it looks like that, which is like really, really fantastic. Here's another little technique. Here's a woman with two wolves, and what they do is, so they painted the woman, basically she's naked, but they want to put some kind of covering on her. Not exactly clothes, but some kind of cool, weird covering kind of clothes-like stuff. But they don't know exactly what they're going to do. So what you do is you take some transparent paper and then put it over the painting and draw on the transparent paper and draw a few times, a few things, just to see how it's gonna look through the paper, right? And so, for example, once you have that all figured out, and you know what you're gonna paint, and now you can actually paint the rest of the figure, and it looks like that. You know, so it's really simple how to do that. Here, here's some underpainting, an example of underpainting, just whatever color you want to use, whatever color you want your painting to go through, more underpaint. Now you're not actually painting details at this point, you're not actually painting anything really, you're just kind of going in there, you're painting like what you want the painting to actually reflect, what kind of light you want it to shine or reflect. And that's the whole point of like underpaintings. As you can see, like you start off there and you kind of end up there. I mean, I'd love to see all the middle steps also, but that's pretty much the idea of where they're going with this book. And of course, I'm going to show you some more of this underpainting. Basically, it looks like that. So that's pretty much that. Here's another one. Okay, so that's pretty much that, and then you just paint it over like your regular painting. You know, if you get the book, you'll be able to really tell. You gotta really read the book. But this is the basicness of what you're gonna learn from the book. And you know, just more of these, you know, little step by step. You start with underpainting, you keep working on it, you keep working on it, and then you get, I'm just going to show you this because this is pretty cool. So yeah, so basically that's what that is, and that's what the book keeps going on about, how to do that, different examples of it. And the thing is that I want to really go another way. This is also significant to Boris and Julie's work. This is called Bodies, the photographs of Boris Vallejo. And as you can see, his thing, and I think his characters look amazing and bigger than life, but I think his characters are like, they look that way because they're bodybuilders. They're like proper bodybuilders, or they're very into bodybuilding, and they look very strong with muscular and everything, the women and the men. So they look good with a sword, or they look good like, you know, the hero protecting the heroine or whatever from the monster. It's, you know, so basically they start off with these really interesting, dynamic looking photographs. Really like dynamic like photographs. You could see like just sexy but dynamic. The light, the dark, everything is black and white. You could see like all of these weird, these poses and stuff. And it just makes the characters dynamic. It makes them not boring. They're not just standing there. They're muscular. They're in these weird poses and stuff. And it all starts off with that. I mean, basically, look at that. See that? And then there's monsters. You know, like dragons or like some kind of monster. yeah, so there's also just see, I really think what they do is they really they go on about the here's some cool stuff. Here's like some armor in like a naked woman's body. And it looks amazing because it just armor and just like a natural body looks fantastic. And as you can see, she's like a bodybuilder. I mean, she's got these muscles and they have these anatomical features and stuff. You know, so that's basically their style. You could pretty much do whatever model, like you could go do whatever model you're attracted to, or whatever model you think is aesthetically pleasing, however you want to work inside your painting. But there's something about like action heroes. There's something about like, for example, like this is the reason I think Arnold Schwarzenegger worked really well in Conan the Barbarian, because those fantasy heroes, they are strong and muscular and big, and they just works really, really well. And you really have to be, I really think that if you want to be like a good artist and make good illustrations and make good paintings, you have to be a good photographer. You have to know what looks good on a 2D platform. You need to know what looks good. Here's like, and I guess this doesn't happen right away, but if you start taking photographs and you start taking photographs of people and maybe messing with it in Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever you do, like, see that? It's not just people standing there. It's the pose. That makes it dynamic, and that's what makes it look really good with like a medieval or like fantasy scenery, or like with some kind of fantasy creatures, or in a world that's like not contemporary, And I guess, and it's definitely because I really think with Boris and Julie's art, it's actually about the person that's in it. It's about the heroine, it's about the hero, it's about the whole story that it tells in just one picture. See that? I mean, it's got these bodybuilder poses, it's got these really interesting effects, whether it's a weapon, a sword, whether it's some kind of reflective drapery or whatever. Like here, see that? She got a sword. That's the same picture as the front. I got this book. I got it by mistake. This thing was on sale, and I was just like, what? This is like available? Does it even exist? I'm really glad I bought this because it's just, I had no idea what the actual models looked like. I wasn't sure what the actual photographs, the reference photos looked like. But it's photography is taking reality and making it into fantasy. It's taking something real, taking a snapshot of it to tell a story within like a second of reality, and presenting that little fantasy reflection of what's real. And painting is the opposite. It's taking that photograph, taking what's, or a real person, taking that reality and making it, and creating it into your own reality, right? So taking a reality and making it into a fantasy, I guess, as a photographer, and then drawing it and making that fantasy into your own fantasy. So yeah, I guess. But okay, I've never seen a photography like a photography book this good. This is like the only, I mean, I've seen other photography books and they're like fine art photography, and this is reference photo photography, If you can get a chance, I think you could probably get this on Amazon or whatever. It's called Bodies by Boris Vallejo, his photographic art. And this is good enough to actually enjoy by itself, but it's even more interesting. Check that out. Yeah, but it's even more interesting to to see how one of the greatest artists in the world creates the reference for what he makes, and both of them, Boris and Julie, they're the best for what they make. It's just, it's really, this is the only book I know of where the artist actually shows you the reference pictures, and they're good to stand up as art themselves, and then they get transferred into fantasy art. So that's what's amazing about this. When I first got this, I was just like, oh, whatever, you know, this is cool, it's got some pictures, but then you realize the value of this, and you realize this is this is like a very original style of photography. Like, no one actually does this. And it's great that he actually like did a picture of his photographs, because I know, like, not only is he a great artist, he's also a great photographer. And not only are his paintings beautiful, but they're also made of like these gorgeous people, these models, these people who work on their body to make themselves look amazing. So yeah, it's just, it's strength and beauty. You know, it's strength and beauty. It's beauty, and it's strong beauty. It's not fragile. It's strong. It's someone that can actually live in a fantasy world, or a made-up world where everything is like dragons and monsters and quest to save queens and princesses and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's cool. Fantasy Workshop, definitely check this out, because it is how to do, it's a very, very loose suggestions of technique, but this is like interesting because I've seen other people on YouTube doing their art techniques, and a few of them I noticed are like, oh, they picked it up from this book. So not only is Boris doing this, a lot of other artists are kind of using this technique with underpaintings and interesting like photographs and stuff. And what's amazing is I'm not going to ever look at, you know, photographing models the same way after I see the Boris Vallejo does. And it doesn't mean that, you know, everyone should photograph bodybuilders and stuff and put them in their art, but it does mean that when you do take that photo that you're gonna transfer later into a work of art, it means make the photo art also. Make the photo art. Make it a fine art photo, and then use that fine art photo to make the fine art. You don't have to, you can just do whatever, but once you have that, it's like one step to the fine art photo and another step taking it to a whole nother level. So when you take photographs, you guys are photographers or artists, and you want to make, if you're an artist and you do make photographs, or you want, I would say try to, like, if you can, find a model. I mean, yeah, you can use some of your friends to model for you, but if you have this image, if you have this, if you have something in mind, if you have this idea of what you want to present, dress it up, find the right person to represent it, and put it into a photograph. Make the photograph a complete work of art. And then once you have that, you have your photograph, and then you can paint a painting from the reference. So yeah, so I just want to show you guys, this is probably one of the most informative art books that not only like is good for everyone to use, but I've seen other artists that are really, really good use this book as a how-to on how to make their own art. So check out this art and let me know what you guys think of the video, and please like and subscribe if you wanna. And I will see you in another video. Take care.